Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. And I'm going to speak once again about this is journey number 7. So this is my 7th journey with ayahuasca, beautiful sacred plant medicine of the Amazon. And same format. I'm just gonna read from my journal. That way I can get pretty much into I get more information out if I read it to you guys than if I talk about it. You'll see a lot of other ayahuasca videos with someone standing in front of a camera and telling you about their experience. But the thing is, there are details and there are important parts that they forget because they're just trying to tell you the story without any kind of format. So by me reading it, I have a format, so I can pretty much give you most of the details. And so I hope you appreciate that. And without further ado, here we go. So this happened in September 2016. All I'm going to say is that the ceremony was held in a sacred land. So I drank my first dose and I went back to my space. I meditated and grounded myself to Pachamama, also known as Mother Earth. I stayed sitting up and I felt her earth energy feeling my body. I felt the energy rising up to my heart chakra and build and build. It was like a ball of energy that was building up bigger and bigger. I then visualized white butterflies filling up this space within this ball. Then as I exhaled, the butterflies were released as I opened my arms. I visualized these butterflies fluttering over everybody in the ceremony, and as they fluttered, they were healing everyone, encouraging them in their path of metamorphosis. I continued to heal and fill up the earth energy. I passed out 3 orbs of butterflies, and then I felt Pachamama ask me, "When are you going to let me heal you?" I then knew that I needed to let go of the responsibility of healing others for that ceremony and to trust that the other volunteers will do the work of Pachamama. I laid down and I allowed myself to go. At first I heard a pinging noise. The pinging noise was like as if I was in a tunnel. Something was pinging on the other side, like a signal of some sort. It sounded a lot like sonar. I followed the pinging noise until the singing of the ceremony got really dim. I then saw a gray. What I mean by gray is a gray alien. It didn't, say where it's from or whatever, but it looks exactly like the alien from Zeta Reticuli. And I'm not going to go and judge it. I'm not going to judge all the beings from Zeta Reticuli and say that they're all bad or that they're all good. I'm just going to tell you my experience with this one. Because to say that one entire race is bad is a mistake. I mean, if an alien race came to Earth and they saw the horrible things that are as a race we do, let's hope they don't judge us as every being of this race is a bad being, because that's not true. There are good humans also. So I believe there are also good Zeta Reticuli and so on and so forth. And there are also, bad ones too. Instead of good or bad, let's say benevolent, malevolent. So, benevolent with a B, malevolent with the M. Um, anyway, so I saw this gray, and it was just standing in front of me. But he then started to push me into a pod of some sort. He tried. He was trying to like nudge me into the pod. Now it didn't feel forceful. Um, it was gentle, but he didn't have an evil expression on his face. I did not sense any evil intention, but I was being pushed to do something against my own will, and that disturbed me. Any benevolent being would explain where we would be going, or at least be more respectful to my personal space, and most of all, my free will. Any benevolent being will respect free will. I said, "Hey, wait, no!" Immediately the gray stopped nudging me and vanished. I then felt Pachamama wrap her arms around me and pull me back to earth. At first I thought I made a mistake, like I failed in journeying and I left my experience too early. Then I heard another healer get up and start to sing a traditional ikaro. This ikaro came from the jungles of the Amazon. Normally when I've heard these ikaros before, it has taken me to a dungeon of purging, where everyone is purging, including myself. However, this time I did not go to that place. Instead, I felt Pachamama say, "The journey is within." I then focused on my heart and my very, very, very deep breathing, with no effort of my own. I could feel my breath exhaling for a very long time and then inhaling for a very, very, very long time, and so on and so forth. And normally when I'm doing that, during meditation, also known as ujjayi breathing, it takes some effort. Those who practice pranayama understand that it does take effort. But in this journey, it didn't take any effort. I just noticed that the breaths were very long. So when the guitar played, I allowed the guitar and the singing to take me along a current of inner beauty. And when the music settled, I heard the crickets. So let me make a little explanation of the current of inner beauty. So literally when this guitar played, it was like the sound made like a road, like a path of some sort. And this path would vibrate as the sound of the guitar was playing. And it just felt like, whoa, here we go, down this like the soundtrack to a ride, a roller coaster. I didn't feel that I was on this roller coaster, but it felt like it was like the soundtrack to a roller coaster. And it was like watching the roller coaster, but not actually being on the roller coaster, if that makes any sense. I guess if you were to watch someone, let's say you had a friend, he went on the roller coaster and brought a camera, let's say a GoPro, and he went on and filmed the GoPro and then showed you. So that's what it felt like to me. It was like I was watching a psychedelic roller coaster of sound. It was beautiful. Very soothing. It made me look at music in a whole new light. So when the music settled, I then heard the crickets. At first I could hear one cricket, then a couple crickets, and then it became a wall of crickets. It was like the crickets had created a veil which was the doorway to the dream realm. I heard my higher self say, "What better music than that of nature?" I learned that the crickets sing the song of Pachamama after the humans and daytime creatures have gone to sleep. So the crickets sing the song of Pachamama after the humans and daytime creatures have gone to sleep. So after we sleep, you know, us and the day creatures, because most of us are not really nocturnal per se. I mean, some of us like stay up late and whatever, but as a whole, we're not really nocturnal creatures. We do most of our stuff in the day. And so we are we're doing our part in the song. I won't say, we're doing our part, whatever that is, no judgment. Just, we're singing our part in this song. And so are the birds. The birds are singing the song in the day, and the chipmunks and the squirrels and the deer and so on and so forth, and everybody's singing their song in the day. And then when that day crew goes to sleep, let's call it, the night crew comes, and the crickets are a huge part of the night crew. They sing the song of Pachamama at night. We sing the song of Pachamama in the day. We as in us, birds, bees, flowers, trees, whatever kind of animal you could think of that, happens in the day, apes, monkeys, you name it. We're all singing the day song. And then when we go to sleep, crickets, panthers, raccoons, all the night wildlife creatures come out and they sing the song. Bats, so on. So that was pretty cool to, I guess it's something that's always, we've always known it, but it's like something we take for granted. And in this journey, it was kind of like, boom, don't take this for granted. Listen, this is really, this is what's happening. So as they sing their song, they're holding space for us. I felt very grateful for the crickets, and I sent them the wave of love and gratitude. Just as I was about to drift off down the stream of consciousness, the feeling of panic struck me. It was the fear of the unknown, the unsure feeling of where my soul is going to go. I did not want to believe that Jesus Christ was my Savior. However, there was a small part of me that still considered that He may actually be. Above all, I did not want to go to hell because of a bad decision. On one hand, I thought I would get hell because of not believing in Jesus Christ as my Savior, and on the other hand, falling into the trap of religion and going back to the cycle of reincarnation and living the hell on earth, like we are. This society is pretty much what I can imagine hell on earth. And we have created that. As a species, we have created that. It breaks my heart every time to realize how damaging we are to this earth. It doesn't have to be that way. Individually, we have the choice. Individually, we don't litter. Individually, we don't put biological organisms in our foods. Individually, we don't poison each other. Individually, we don't enslave each other. But as a whole, as an entire race, the human race, we are. And that breaks my heart. It breaks my heart whenever I'm walking down the street and I just see that it's just filled with trash. And I'll get a bag and I'll pick up every piece of trash I can find. And the next day I walk down the street and the trash is there again. I just, it's hard to understand that people simply do not care enough for this earth that they would just throw their trash down. Excuse me. I'm back. Sorry about that. My roommate decided to use the blender. So yeah, what I was saying is just, it breaks my heart to see that people can just throw away, their whatever, their Taco Bell wrappings, just throw it on the floor. Someone at a stop sign finished their drink and just throw it on the floor. Cans on the floor, just everything, just thrown on the floor. I find that littering is the most offensive because that is a personal choice as an individual to damage the earth. And that breaks my heart. Even more than seeing corporations do it. A person doing it. It's just breaks my heart. We really need to wake up. As a human race, we need to wake up. At least respect our earth. Whether you see her as a breathing, living being like I do, or whether you see her as a planet, ball of rock floating in space that happens to have organisms growing off her. And even if you don't think she's, full of life like I believe, at least don't litter. At least don't pollute. It's bad enough that we have to work for people that pollute. But us personally, we don't need to pollute. Please wake up. Sorry I got off on a tangent there. So back to what I was saying. So I had a fear of, either hell or going back to the cycle of reincarnation, which would put me back on this earth once again as a baby with all my memory gone and, having to do the grind all over again for another lifetime, which to me seems like hell also. So I didn't want either. So I was thinking, is Jesus Christ, or is he an ascended master like Buddha, Shiva, Krishna, and so on? I then realized that I had been caught in a thought loop, and I immediately focused back on the crickets. There was no Icaros being sung at this time, but I tried to clear my mind of any thoughts. The healer started to sing a song, and almost immediately my focus was drawn to a hummingbird. The hummingbird had a bright light radiating from its chest. As the singing intensified, I visualized the hummingbird darting back and forth to all the participants. It was devouring negative thought form entities in the form of black fuzzy orbs. I saw the hummingbird zipping back and forth through many different portals at light speed, like it was transferring energy from all the realms to clear the air within our ceremony. Once the air was cleaned of all the black fuzzies, I saw the hummingbird zip over a mountain range. And it was gone. I felt an overwhelming sense of joy as I felt fully in my body again. At this time, the music was playing faster as participants were celebrating and dancing. A huge smile filled my face as I grabbed my rattle and started to shake along with the music. By rattle, I mean maraca. I opened my eyes and I saw a tree. This tree was hovering over me. It was drawing in my attention. By just being, it drawed my attention in more and more. It didn't move at all. Slowly, the tree started to morph into fractal patterns. What I would normally see as branches became geometrical patterns. As I kept staring, the tree's color was brightened to the point of becoming pure light. It went from green and brown tree to a light being in the shape of a tree. It was a golden light. As I stared further and further, I saw the face form within the geometric pattern. This face looked masculine, and I felt that this was the spirit of the tree. But a few moments later, I could see that this face was actually part of a larger, feminine face, and I felt that this face was Mother Earth. I felt an overwhelming sense of love and acceptance. It was like the Earth spirits were showing me that no matter what I do, they are not going to give up on me or abandon me, and they are happy that I am trying to expand my consciousness. I was there for just a moment with Pachamama in the tree. Then my eyes refocused on the tree, and it was back to a tree in the 3D physical form. I was no longer seeing it as a light being, and I felt my body fill with the earth energy from the soil. I was laying on. I got the urge to get up and celebrate existence. Life. To celebrate life. As I was celebrating, I saw that others were still journeying. I felt the desire to help them out somehow. So I imagined my body filling up with earth energy and manifesting as a bowl of butterflies in my belly. Then I exhaled out the butterflies towards the participants still journeying. I then felt a voice of intuition take over my thoughts and started to dance a particular way. Normally I do not like dancing, but I knew I was in a place of no judgment and that it was safe to let my spirit take over. All thoughts of embarrassment were non-existent. I shook my maraca over the participants, sending healing thoughts of love. I visualized that when I shook my maraca towards an individual, let's say a participant, the rattle sprinkled earth-loving energy over the individual, the participant, showering them in love and light. I felt guided by my intuition to shake the maraca over the chakra points of certain participants. I saw that when I shook the maraca down, healing energy dust came out, but when I shook the rattle up, or the maraca up, the maraca pulled negative energy off of others and sent it to the universe to be cleansed. I was then encouraged by my intuition to gather another ball of butterflies, so I planted my feet firmly in the soil and imagined roots growing out of my feet all the way to the core of the earth, which I imagined as a turquoise crystalline ball of pure energy. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm back. So I imagined my roots wrapping around the crystalline core as energy rising up through my roots and up through my feet and up my torso. But this time, instead of feeling constant flowing up towards my head, I felt the energy stop at my torso. So if I could explain this a little bit, so pretty much it's a grounding exercise, and so what I did is I imagined roots growing out of my feet, like, big, strong tree roots, growing out of my feet. And as they grew, they'd go through the earth's crust and, all that you could imagine, whatever's below us. and flowing, through all that, growing bigger and bigger, and then finally when it gets to the center of the earth, um, I imagine this in my mind's eye. It was a turquoise ball of crystal, like a crystalline ball. And this crystalline ball was pulsing with energy. And as my roots touched this crystalline ball and attached itself, it was like a part of me was attaching myself to Mother Earth, and she would send her love through this pulse of energy that would go up those roots, up into my feet, rising up through my body. And normally it goes all the way out the top of my head and up to the sky, to Father Sky, the center of the universe. But this time it actually stopped at my torso, let's say my heart chakra. So I could feel the energy was not stagnant, but it was building. In my mind's eye, I saw a ball of turquoise energy building in front of my torso. And I could feel this ball of energy was the largest ball of energy I've ever drawn in. I felt a magnetic force somehow gently locking my body in that position for just a couple moments. I did not feel the need to release, but I felt no pain, so I just allowed whatever was happening to happen. Suddenly, somehow I knew it was time to release, and so I did. And I released this huge ball of energy towards the center of the ceremony. I do not know what the energy did, because nothing happened in the physical realm, but I did feel a beautiful lightning sensation fill my body. I remember I had brought a sage wand to keep me company on my journey. I reached down to grab it, and I noticed that the threading was loose, so I started to rewrap the thread. I wrapped the thread back around the sage wand, and as I was wrapping the thread, I heard a whistling coming from the forest behind me. A part of me forgot I was in the ceremony with other people, and I started to whistle along. One of the healers gently asked me to stop because they wanted to sing another Ikaro, and I was whistling too loud. So respectfully, I stopped whistling, but I was still whistling in my head, and it was like a song being played over and over in my head. I couldn't focus on anything else, and I didn't want to focus on anything else. The whistling felt so nice. Could this be the song of the forest? I asked. During the celebration, I saw a giant cricket, and the size of my hand. It landed in front of the shaman who was playing his drum. I noticed that he looked at it, but he had no expression on his face. I felt the cricket has given us one final blessing before we leave. This blessing was of gratitude, and it was thanking us for choosing to become awakened light beings. It leaped around onto certain participants in the ceremony, and then it landed on a clear quartz crystal before finally leaping back into the forest. Nobody else seemed to have noticed the cricket, or at least they didn't appear to react to it. One of the shamans I noticed looked at the cricket, but he reacted as if he expected while he played the drums, and he was not interrupted. Soon afterward, the ceremony was called to an end, and it had concluded. And I talked to one of the shaman, asked him about Jesus Christ and God, and how although I grew up in a Christian household, I don't really feel connected with the belief of giving my heart to Jesus. He smiled and he said that in many religious doctrine we see the Trinity, but it is in many different forms. When you break down many religions, Western and non, it comes down to the inner Christ, the Earth Mother, and the Creator God. He said what helps him is to visualize the Christ energy as our inner knowing of who we are and what our moral values are. The Earth Mother represents the energy, is the nature around us. The Creator God energy is our creativity. And I told him I would meditate with that in mind as I go into my next journey. Overall, probably the biggest lesson I learned from the ceremony is that, like the tree of life, we must develop strong roots before we can venture into the higher realms safely. What I mean by strong roots, it's inner knowing. You must develop a strong inner knowing before you can venture into higher realms. You must know who you are before you go to a place where they tell you who you may or may not be. Not every being that you come in contact with is benevolent or malevolent. Some can be very tricky. Some can appear as beautiful goddesses and gods, and they're actually tricky. They'll try to get you to do things you don't necessarily, that maybe you might desire, but it's not for your best benefit. One of these that I find that harms ceremonies is sexual desires. Once the participants in the ceremonies have given into their sexual desires, things can go real bad real quick. And I think that there has been circles that have been ruined because of that. When we tap into these energies, sometimes they're primal, and they're bringing back our primal ancestry, our primal knowing, in which we didn't have a society, and so we could dance around the fire naked, and we could, express our sexual desires with anybody we wanted. But in our society, we have left that way of thinking. We've left those actions, because those kind of actions cannot be taken when you have the plan to go back to society without there being attachments and damage. Sexual energy can be transferred, and with that, negative energy could also be transferred. So that's one way that trickster entities can throw you off your path, is through sexual desire. And other temptations, ego, like you could have a spiritual ego, which is very tricky, because people desire power, and so when they meet this being that's giving them power to do things like have swords and wings and armor and all this all these items and tools and utensils, you know, you gotta ask yourself, what are these swords and armor pieces, and what's all this tools that you're getting? Why are you getting them? Why do you need to fight a battle? It's self-healing, is the battle within yourself, but you don't need weapons to fight that. At least in my experiences, I don't. And I've seen that those who have, received those swords and received those, those pieces of armor and trinkets and so on and so forth, I find that they just kind of build up the ego and can distract someone from their path. Another thing is the trickster energy will get you to eat something or to drink something, and when you consume something, you're making that a part of you. So be very careful when you're in the other realms and you're consuming something. And that's what I mean by you need to know who you are. You need to have strong roots. Because if you don't know who you are, you might think that you need whatever they're giving you. But if you know who you are, you know that you don't need. You know that you don't need any kind of food. You don't need any kind of drink. You don't need any kind of, weapons, armor, trinkets, medallions, whatever we could think of that we need in society. We don't need that in other realms, because we are. So to know who you are, develop those strong roots. Very, very, very important. Very important. So that night I had a dream, and in this dream there were demon dogs. Pachamama was keeping them away as long as I allowed myself to journey. So let me explain that a little bit. So there was these like demon dogs that were like literally in my face, like about to bite my face off, and I saw that there was this other feminine presence, which I just knew was Pachamama. I just knew it. She didn't have to tell me or anything, and she had this chains wrapped around these dogs and was holding them back from attacking me. And she was saying that, these dogs will not hurt you as long as you stay on the path. And by staying on the path, it means allow yourself to journey. I think a lot of people fall short when they're like, oh, okay, I've journeyed enough. Unless they've had a total realization of who they are. Like, one, for example, is David Icke. He's only done ayahuasca 3 times, and he feels that's all he needs. But if you listen to the amazing revelation that he got from those 3 journeys, it's pretty awesome. It's like the equivalent of 20 journeys or whatever, or maybe even a lifetime of journey. I don't know, but he definitely knows. He was definitely shown he has strong roots and a definite inner knowing of who he is. So maybe he doesn't need to keep taking it. But I know that other people, they fall short because they stop participating, because they don't like the taste, or they don't like to diet, they don't like to take the time, and they don't like to put in the work. And this is hard work. This is the path of shamanism is not easy. It's not fun. At times it can be fun, I'll admit that. At times it's very beautiful. But other times it can be frightening, and many times it's just hard. It's real, sometimes you want to purge and you just can't. Sometimes you don't want to purge and you just keep purging and purging and purging. So she was just reminding me, I'm not going to let anything harm you. Just stay on the path. Kind of like, you're doing good, but there are dangers out there. There are things you need to work through. So just keep on. So then she told me that the demon dogs represented my darker side, and that my free will controls those dogs. So as long as I deny my ego, deny my desires, deny my fears, and that I keep going to ceremony, she will protect me. Even in the face of demons, I have nothing to fear. So remember, this was a dream. The same night I could feel my body sleeping in ancient Indian poses that I've seen statues of, like Krishna, Shiva, Ganesh, Buddha, and statues. Pretty much as it said, while I'm sleeping, I could feel my body going, to different poses of, like I said, Buddha, Shiva, Krishna, a lot of Ganesha, a lot of Indian, Eastern yogic poses. If I can, nothing too crazy. I mean, I didn't put my, legs beyond my head, or, go into a, some sort of, no, warrior 3 or, whatever, kind of poses like that. They were just, they were meditating, legs crossed, hands over the head, just hands over the heart at one time, just moving in an interesting way while sleeping. It's kind of hard to explain, actually. So, when I finally did return home, I felt very connected with my wife and my family. And when I touched my wife's arm, it felt like I was touching my own arm. And it felt like at the core of all reality that we are all connected. Kind of like a pixel on a computer screen. We all are a small part of the whole being that is creation. So, yeah, I'm a pixel. You're a pixel. Everybody's a pixel. But when you take a step back, and when you look at all these pixels, once they're in the same frequency, they create something amazing. So that's my journey. I hope you learned something from this journey. I hope you get something out of this journey. And please leave a comment. I will try to answer any questions the best I can. And give me a like if you liked the video. Subscribe, let you know when I post more videos. And that will conclude my shamanic journey number 7. So go in peace. I wish peace to you all. Always remember to ground yourself to Mother Earth before taking any kind of spiritual journey. Travel safe in the love and light. Peace be with you.